7 Days to Die is a deceptively in-depth zombie survival game that is constantly changing, demanding new strategies for survival from even the most experienced of players. Whether you're a new player or someone returning to the game for Alpha 21, in this video I'll aim to cover some of the tips and tricks that I wish I knew when jumping into this version of the game for the first time. This video is aimed at being helpful for beginners, but if you're an experienced player, there might be a tip or two in here that you don't know as well. If you find this video useful or entertaining, be sure to drop it a like, and I'd encourage those veterans amongst you folks to share your tips and tricks down in the comments for other players too. You never know who you might be able to help with your advice. So let's start with a couple of things that are super prevalent in Alpha 21, which for those unfamiliar is the build we are currently on in 7 Days to Die. It's come with a host of changes that affect the way you'll survive, one of those being water. Water could formerly be collected from rivers in containers and then purified, but now that is impossible, which means dehydration can be a serious risk, especially in the early stages of your game. If you're starting a new playthrough, keep this in the back of your mind, because as soon as you start your game, that clock is going to be ticking. You'll find plenty of murky water just from looting points of interest and houses. Search toilets, coffee makers, water coolers, food stashes. All of these and more will spawn murky water. From here, we just need a way to purify the water so that it's safe to drink, and for that, we're going to need a cooking pot. Do enough looting and you'll likely find one of these. They can be sitting on top of kitchen cabinets, found in certain containers like dishwashers, or if you're not having any luck with looting, you can buy them from a trader. If you don't find one early, it's worth buying one, and you'll usually only need to do one mission to get enough cash to purchase one. Attach the cooking pot to a campfire and you're good to go. From here, you shouldn't have any problems with water so long as you're looting regularly. Later down the line, keep an eye out for a water purification mod that can be slotted into your helmet. You can find these whilst looting or craft them if you gain the knowledge. This will allow you to drink murky water without any negative side effects, and even drink directly from rivers, ponds, or other water sources out in the world with absolute safety. In Alpha 21, this can be a godsend, especially if you get lucky enough to find one in the early game, so keep an eye out. Another one of the major changes to Alpha 21 is the way the skill system works. Previously, you could allocate points from leveling up into direct character benefits like strength, perception, or fortitude, but also into crafting skills. Now, you will not be able to allocate level points to crafting skills, and instead, they will require you to find magazines for those particular skills. For example, the magazine Forge Ahead will give you 1 level in workstations. You'll need to get this to level 5 to build a forge. Now, as you can imagine, a lot of your progress thus relies on skill magazines, and for that reason, looting mailboxes outside houses is advised at every opportunity. They'll spawn these magazines regularly and can be a great way to get extra levels in skills whilst out and about. Keep an eye out for scattered books to loot too for the same reasons. If you come across a magazine with an icon at the top left showing an open book rather than a closed one, this means you've already browse this magazine, and whilst you can read it again for XP, it's better to sell them to a trader since you'll gain more XP from this and some cash for your trouble. Now, if you're playing with some friends or have others in your group, it's definitely worth considering each of you specializing in a couple of different areas rather than all of you trying to progress all of the crafting skills. This will allow you to get further along as a group in a quicker fashion. Remember, skill magazines are consumed on use, so work together and check in with your group to see who's learning which skills. Now, one feature that a lot of players, especially new ones, don't really know about, or at least don't understand fully, is the game stage feature. Game stage helps to determine what kind of zombies you'll be facing in points of interest around the map, during hordes, and perhaps most importantly, during blood moons. It's a way of attempting to balance the game to the stage you are currently at, hence the name game stage. There are several factors that play into your game stage number, such as your character's level, how long you've survived, and the level of your teammates. Now, if you find that you're having a rough time and have died a few times, you'll find that the game should relent a little and become slightly easier for a time, before starting to ramp up again. Likewise, if you've survived for a long time and have been doing quite well, you might notice that the game becomes more challenging. There's not necessarily anything to be done about your game stage number, but it's good to keep an eye on it and get a feel for it as you play through the game to understand where you might be in terms of upcoming challenges. Now, something for the new players. As a first order of business in any new game, you should complete the tutorial objectives shown on the side of your screen as quickly as possible. You'll be given 4 skill points just for completing the tutorial. Once that's done, you should be heading to the trader marked on your HUD. The trader will offer missions that can be completed for currency that can then be spent on key items that might be gatekeeping your progress. This is especially key in Alpha 21, since we're basically relying on the chance of finding magazines for the skills that unlock many craftables that we can alternatively buy from the traders themselves. To make your life easier, it's also worth considering choosing a place to hold up near to the trader themselves. You'll be able to get more quests done at a quicker pace, not to mention that you'll have a shorter journey to go and sell unwanted materials or purchase new upgrades. If you choose to base in a pre-existing building, just be careful that you don't pick up any quests at the location that you've chosen. Each house or location has a name which can be seen when entering the area, so keep a mental note for later and make sure you don't accept a quest at that location. Quests, when activated, reset loot, zombie spawns, and any construction in said location. So naturally, if you've created a base there, it'll remove everything you've built and you'll lose everything you've worked so hard for. For this reason, you'll need to be even more careful on multiplayer servers. You'll only learn which locations can be quest destinations after playing for a little while, which is one of the many reasons I'd always recommend a few single player or small scale co-op playthroughs before you take on full-blown multiplayer. It's worth noting that you can use the reset function that comes with starting a quest to your advantage. Loot an area, kill off the infected, and then return to the quest start location and kick off your mission. This will respawn all the loot and zombies in that area, effectively offering you 2 sets of loot from that location. So, to recap, head for the trader as soon as possible, base near the trader for quick missions and trading, and lastly, be careful not to accept quests that take place at your chosen base location. As you can probably tell by now, the trader is a cornerstone of 7 Days to Die and surviving for longer periods, so there's a few more tips that are worth knowing about them here. Firstly, looting the area inside and around the trader settlement is absolutely fine to do and can be quite lucrative. Apparently, they really don't mind you rummaging through their supplies and taking what you need. Just keep in mind, you won't be able to dismantle, harvest, or otherwise destroy anything inside the settlement. As you complete more quests for the trader, you'll find yourself unlocking more and more rewards. During the early stages of the game, more than anything, I'd recommend choosing ammo as your reward. So long as you have a gun to use it with, and this is very, very likely if you're completing missions and looting regularly, whether it's a pipe gun or a handgun that you found hidden away in a toilet somewhere, acquiring your first firearm and ensuring it's loaded can be huge. Just make sure you save some of your ammo for your first blood moon on night 7, because believe me, you're going to need plenty of it. We'll come back to the blood moon shortly. If you decide to take on some buried supply missions, you'll always be better off avoiding the top layer of dirt, as the ones just underneath will have less HP, and you'll be able to narrow the search radius much quicker. The only time this doesn't apply is in the snow biomes, where the top layer of snow will have even lower health. Keep in mind that every 10 blocks you dig, the radius will narrow, and this has a chance to spawn some zombies, so make sure to be ready to defend yourselves each time the zone narrows. Lastly, when you loot the supply chests, zombies will often spawn at this point too. There's a bunch of items in 7 Days to Die that will increase your barter percentages, which essentially give you better rates for buying and selling items. At first, you might not be too bothered by this, but as you progress in the game, make sure to keep an eye out for these items because all of the effects from them will stack together, and you can make some pretty huge amounts of extra cash if you use them together. Cigars, sugar butts, grandpa's awesome sauce, and pumpkin cheesecake all affect your bartering skill up to a whopping 70% extra for selling and 75% discount for buying. Remember, we still get XP from selling items, so XP boosters are also useful here if you're selling in large amounts for some extra gains there too. Traders restock their inventories every 3 days after day 4 has passed, so it'll be day 7 when it restocks for the first time, and every 3 days thereafter. Vending machines at the traders restock daily. When it comes to defending against a blood moon, there's 101 ways to build a base, and honestly, we'd be here all day if I went through specific strategies and builds for your defenses, but I will cover one that I was shown when learning the game, which worked just fine for defending against our very first blood moon. Now, an important note about zombies here: they will always try to find the path of least resistance to your current location, so every base you'll build will essentially be constructed around the idea that you want to lure them into particular areas where their AI is tricked into thinking they'll reach you easily, when in fact you're leading them into a kill box. This basic foundation of zombie AI is what we play on with this base concept. We construct a wide set of stairs with a simple platform. This, to the zombies, is going to be the easiest way for them to reach us. We then build another platform with a wide gap between the two, with these spheres spaced out between the platforms. The zombies will try to path over the spheres to reach you, but quite often they'll fall into the gap below trying to get across to the second platform. We then fill the gap with wooden spike traps so that any zombies falling off are injured, and sure enough, they'll repeat the same path again, offering us another chance to take shots at them, slowing the tide of approaching undead and ultimately giving us that vital time that we need to defend. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the be-all end-all of base defense and that this will work at higher levels, but it is an effective way to get started with a minimal resource cost and simple construction that can be completed inside of a day, which is vital during the early stages when you're spending so much time out and about completing quests or looting points of interest. One or two notes here before we wrap up on this section. Firstly, make sure that you don't skimp on the construction of the platforms. Do not be tempted to leave the inside hollow or built out of the base gridwork blocks. The zombies are smart enough to identify this as a weakness, and ultimately your structure could come crashing down underneath you. Secondly, consider building a backstop so that you don't go walking off the ledge during the defense into the waiting arms of the shambling corpses below. Lastly, spike traps do not grant XP when they kill something. With this in mind, if you're confident in your own ability and you have plenty of ammo, you can skip out on these spike traps below to maximize the amount of XP that you'll gain during the blood moon, but that of course comes with the added risk of, well, death. Alright, so we've covered quite a few of the fundamentals to your survival. Now let's look at some quality of life stuff that isn't necessarily going to be absolutely essential, but it will certainly help you on your way. Firstly, learning your inventory keybinds. A full list is presented on the inventory panel, which you'll see on screen now, but it's not immediately obvious and can often be passed over. A couple of really big ones include shift clicking to transfer items from a container to your inventory and vice versa, and this handy little button on your inventory panel. Clicking this will instantly transfer any items in your inventory that already exist in the container you're viewing over to said container. This is best used when you get back to your base after a loot run and want to drop off loot quickly in vast quantities. Another quick and easy thing to keep an eye out for are items that you can pick up. Sure, you might want to use them as decor at your base, but if not, they can be picked up and quickly scrapped in the inventory screen for resources. Things like camping chairs, office chairs, and other items can be turned into leather, wood, scrap iron, and other materials that could be useful to you later. Dismantling other items that can't be picked up can be worth it too, with some of them offering supplies that you might not be able to get until later into the game when you're able to mine metals effectively. Dismantling bottling them in your inventory will be the best thing to do early on, but later you'll be able to throw some of these into a forge for better returns. You can find bags of cement and fertilizer too, so there's plenty to look out for. Have a play around, harvest some items, and see what you get. This also applies to items like gun safes, broken vending machines, and streetlights, to name just a few items that can drop forged steel, which will be incredibly useful in a lot of crafting you do. And whilst you're looting, you might also want to keep an eye out for any particularly weak blocks or paintings hanging on walls. In almost every location, there's going to be the potential for hidden loot, like safes hidden behind paintings, boxes and bags up in the rafters where you might need to climb to reach them, or things hidden under the floorboards. Essentially, have a good look around because you never know what might be hiding in an otherwise fairly normal looking house. When it comes to harvesting from animals or anything else that was once living, make sure to use a knife for the maximum resource gain available. You can make a bone knife very easy and early on in your playthrough for this. A craft that you can focus on nice and early in the game, which will be of great benefit to you, is the clothing pocket mods. They're relatively easy to craft and you won't need to find any magazines or level up any skills to build them. You can throw these onto many items of clothing, not armor. Many players are going to recommend putting points into Pack Mule early on in the game, but by crafting these mods for your clothes, you should be able to avoid the need for this perk altogether, and you can focus those points elsewhere instead. Now, when you're harvesting wood, especially nearby to your base, make sure you're replanting the trees with the seeds that are being deposited into your inventory after cutting some of them down. Trees don't grow back naturally in 7 days to die and require these seeds to be planted, so you'll want to make sure you're doing this to keep a steady supply of wood and other resources available to you at all times. Now, there's a very small chance that during combat with the undead, you'll find yourself acquiring an infection when being hit. If this happens, don't panic. We can get rid of this pretty quickly if we give it immediate attention. Early on, your best bet will be to harvest tree stumps, which have a chance to drop honey. This is not only a decent food item in the early stages, but cures a percentage of your infection stat. So it's always worth harvesting these if you see one, assuming you haven't yet got to the point where you can manufacture your own antibiotics. When you get to the point of mining nodes for resources, you can actually use your map to identify the different types of ore that you'll be looking out for. There's a key on the side of your screen now showing which color signifies which ore you're looking at. This can be incredibly helpful for scouting out good mining spots just by looking around your map for a quick few minutes before you head out on your run. So that's about it for me in this one, folks, but if you've watched this far, I just want to say a quick thank you for sticking around, and I hope all the tips were useful to you in some way or another. This is my first 7 Days to Die video on the channel, so I'm eager to hear what you guys thought, and hopefully I'll be able to do some more in the future depending on the performance of this video. If you have any other tips for other players, drop them in the comments section below. Lastly, a very special thank you to all of my Patreon supporters for backing the channel, and if you'd like to join them, there's a link below in the description. We host our own whitelisted servers for patrons to gain access, put funds towards mod development for games like Project Zomboid, and much more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.